Are you a military family who's PCSing this summer? Do you have pets? Then you need to check out PCS with Pets. We educate and help active duty military families with pets navigate the complex logistical and financial challenges of the military PCS process. Visit MyMilitaryPavings.com.
Hey guys, welcome back to Off Duty Happy Hour. I'm so excited because we're trying something new today with video. And I'm also very excited because I have a dear friend, an amazing guest on today who I can't wait to pick her brain. This is my friend Annette.
Hi.
And I met her through our kids' school here in England. And I'm going to let you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from.
So, I'm Australian. I'm an Air Force spouse. My husband's with the Australian Air Force. We met Kate through our kids going to the same English school, prep school here in the England area.
Yeah, it was quite the experience.
It's a lovely way to meet people, right? Is the shared schooling experience.
Yes, we wouldn't have met otherwise.
Very glad to have met somebody else who's in a very similar boat and ready to pick up a friendship quickly.
We didn't really fit in the English private school sector. Would you say we were too colorful? Flavorful.
Flavorful was my definition, because they just keep going every year on year, and then us internationals just add a bit of sprinkling of flavor to them.
Yeah. So we met, our daughters were in the same class. And so I think also what's so interesting, so when I first met Annette, we met her daughter on the day before the first day of school. And her daughter led with, I'm Australian, but I was born in Florida. So they actually were stationed in the States for some time. So you've had 3 different experiences of, military throughout Australia, America, and England, and also, different ways of life and countries. So
yeah, that's right. We spent 3 years living in Florida, in the Panhandle though, so the Alabama side of Florida, and we had a wonderful experience. We was just newly married at the time, so really enjoyed everything that Florida had to handle. And then started the baby process, got to know the American way of doing the military, which is a bit different to the English way. And what we learned also is, so the Australian and the American military are a bit different. And then we realized that we were more like English. And so it's been interesting to now come to England and realize, no, we're not actually that much like you guys either. This drift from Australia has been quite great, and so I feel like we land somewhere in between, America and England.
Even cultural-wise, I think you guys are like right in the middle of, America and England, because there's some things we totally jive with, like, and then some things that you jive with England, things like zucchini. They call it aubergine.
Oh, we call it eggplant still.
Oh, wait, aubergine is eggplant. Zucchini is courgette.
Courgette
or courgette?
I don't know. I call it zucchini, so...
I call it zucchini as well. See, I didn't even... aubergine was eggplant. We call it eggplant as well.
There's so many, though.
I know. Hilarious. So it is funny to have, laugh together on the Englishisms. Englandisms, yeah. So what are some big differences that you noticed from Australian military to, let's start with U.S. military, and then we'll go on from Australia, Air Force to the Royal Air Force here in England?
One of the things that as a spouse, I guess, we were really stood back by how much your American people embrace the military, and there's that show of appreciation for the military, and it's almost a love for it, which is really great. Whereas Australia, the military is very hidden. You only hear about it in the media when there's something bad's going on. And it's just not a part of everyday life. So as a military spouse, you then tell people that you're in the military and they're like, right. They have no way of connecting with you. Whereas I feel like everyone you met in America has, my partner or has a family member that has some connection to the military.
I can see that as well. I do notice that here. Yeah, when you tell someone, oh, my husband's military, and they're just kind of like, yeah.
They don't have much ground to then talk about.
Whereas back home in the States, you tell someone and they try to connect in a way like, oh, my great-grandfather served, or things like that. Any other differences you noticed, or was that the main one?
That's a lot.
Well, you guys don't have like, you don't have like a commissary or an exchange, like your bases. What are your bases like?
Our bases have become very small, and there's not many, and they're very spread apart. A lot of our defence housing has gone very private, and it's in the community in the suburbs, so we don't have a huge amount of the close-knit communities that happen with the defence in the US. I was a new mum, so I went along to the base community centres in the US and got to have that really nice experience of shared groups. Whereas in Australia, there isn't any of that. You're just out with the community. You tend to bond with the friends, like we tend to bond with the colleagues of my husband's work, because they're in a similar situation.
But then otherwise you're living amongst civilian life. Yeah. So it is interesting because we do have privatized, what you said, the housing is contracted out. But you guys, like you said, live within communities, like where our base housing is separate. So I don't know. I guess there could be pros and cons to that. One, you'd be surrounded by everyone, but then you're also secluded by everyone. So whereas you guys live in neighborhoods of just regular neighborhoods. So dare I say the housing is probably a little bit nicer than...
I didn't see too much of the US housing because we lived off base, and but definitely a little bit nicer than the English housing that we've seen here. And I feel like that's the other part to add to, that the US looks after their military, and it definitely feels like here they're not nearly as embraced by the people and by the government in terms of funding and respect.
Right.
They're kind of shocked at a little bit. And
it's shocking too, because the royal family, all the men have to serve.
Yeah.
So you think military would be more
a very honourable profession, and I feel like maybe that's why we were included at the Pinewood, at the prep school, invited in, because it is a prestigious profession.
Yes.
But it doesn't feel like that in terms of the treatment and the housing and
I agree with you there. So I guess that kind of took us into England and the differences. Are there any other major differences you noticed between, Australia and Air Force, other than housing and
one of the interesting things is Australia, we like to say that we hit above our weight, like we're a very small country, like large in land mass.
I was going to say, you guys are huge.
Sorry, large in land mass, but our population size is really small. And so what we find is that people go out of their way. We're quite a hardworking people. Most people are capable of multiple things in their job, whereas we found in the US a little bit, everybody has a job.
Yeah.
So take, for instance, when you go to a restaurant, there's no seater in Australia.
Okay.
The person at the front door is just the waitress who walks past, and she's like, great, come to my section and I'll grab you and I'll look after you. There's no drink server, orderer. They're all the same person.
Okay.
Who just bundles through and works really hard. And the same thing applies to the military. I hear that everyone's got quite specific jobs, whereas Australia breeds somebody. We just have a breadth and they know how to do a little bit. Jack of all trades.
Yeah, and just do it all.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I guess that brings me to the point that then the contrast is to England a little bit, where I feel like they're a little bit more like you guys, where everyone's got a specific job. Unfortunately, not too many people to help you with that job, though.
Yeah. that doesn't fall under my criteria. I can't help you. So there's a lot what I get. There's no words. I feel like, at least I even worked for the government for a little bit. It wasn't, you never say I can't help you. You say, let me find someone who can help you, Yeah.
Oh, this is where you need to go looking. You're not in the right spot. Right.
Yeah. So in terms of pace of life, I'll keep my opinion quiet because I want to hear what you think. So pace of life US versus Australia?
Well, I think it all depends, I guess, on your personality and how much you take on, right? There's all types of people in Australia as well.
True. Yeah.
I would say they're quite similar.
Are they similar?
On par.
So what about Australia versus UK?
I would say Australia is definitely working a lot harder, if not twice as hard as the English are. So, they seem to...
So I was going to say, I think living in England's a much slower pace of living, which is not a bad thing. But it's hard to get used to when I think the US is very much fast-paced and, let's get this done in this manner. And England's more of like, it'll get done when it gets done.
I've often referred to, we call it England time. In Australia, we could refer to it as Darwin time, because in the Darwin, it's really hot, and so everything slows down a little bit. Everything eventually gets done, but it's just a lot slower.
What's the saying? And it dawned on me that it makes perfect sense that Tim says the keep calm and carry on. Is that it?
Keep calm and carry on has taken on a whole new meaning to me since living here.
It didn't click until Tim said that, and I was like, oh my gosh, it all makes sense now. Keep calm, carry on, because keep calm, it'll get done eventually. You just carry on with your day.
It is just not the cultural way that Australians grow up with, and so it's not until you come here that you understand, on a daily basis, they keep calm and carry on.
Yeah.
Something bad happens, or very, fridges are broken, power's out, things that make people want to jump into action, solve, resolve. Let's make sure this doesn't happen again. What things can we learn from this? Training exercises is how Australia would approach it.
Yeah.
They can't come, have a cup of tea, and work out if they actually need to do anything about it, or if they can just put a Band-Aid on it somehow.
So you gotta love it, though. It's so fun and interesting to experience, a different culture and embrace it. And
it so is, and it's not until you're out of your own comfort zone that you become aware of all these cultural differences that you do. And that the words that we speak, we have no idea that we're speaking a foreign language to people who are also speaking English to us.
Yeah. Well, and I came in with the assumption, I don't know if you did too, but I'm like, we're moving to England. We all speak the same language. It'll be just like America. And I was so far off from that. And I've heard other people say that too, because there is a huge cultural difference. And so I think that was a shock, if we moved to Italy or a place where, the language is different, you kind of expect a huge culture shock. But I have heard that people said sometimes when they go to other countries that speak different language, the day-to-day culture is closer to, the US or whatever than actual England. But it has been such a fun experience to live in it and learn it and embrace it and keep calm and carry on and take that mindset into, other aspects of life. So, okay, so we're going to talk a bit about PCS now, because
it is the constant elephant in the room.
So I just PCS, it was only an hour away, and yet I have been super stressed. And so poor Annette, she's been my friend and solid pillar through it. It's just PCS, no matter how you put it, it's just stressful. There's always, but one thing that never seems to change is the constant hurry up, wait. So, because Annette is actually leaving back to Australia. So first, how many hours does it take to get back to Australia?
So the flight time, when you're looking at booking it, it's 27 hours. And then some of them, if you're having layovers, they pop out to 50. I saw one that was 57, because that means that you're having a 12-hour layover somewhere. Yeah. Or 3 stops.
Yeah, I didn't realize how far Australia was. So when we got here, we're like, 7-hour flight. Oh, it kind of stunk, but whatever. And then they're like, it took us almost 40 hours. I was like, I have no need to complain or nothing. So, and just like this move, we just literally had everyone pack up everything and move to the new house. You have the whole international move again, where you have to sort everything. You have different.
So we're going three different categories. What's coming with us in all of our suitcases? What's coming as a quick, small air freight? And because it's so far to go to Australia, they put the rest of our stuff on a sea journey, which takes 3 months. So farewell to anything that you would like. That has to go on the air freight. Otherwise, you'll see it in 3 months' time. It's all that stuff that, as a minimalist, you don't actually need.
Right. And we talked about that, like when you moved and you get rid of all this stuff, or you couldn't take your furniture and stuff with you, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So no furniture.
You were given an allowance, though, to rent out furniture. But then that's a whole nother aspect of the moving, is making sure, they don't pack what's rental, what's not, when
the removalists come in and start just packing anything and everything, and you're like, oh no, the lamp actually belongs with the rental furniture.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a cupboard full of things.
And then, like you said, you had your air freight, which we have. Yeah, you get right away. And then your sea freight.
Sea freight.
Which I think is the same for us. And
just
ours
doesn't take as long as ours does.
Doesn't take as long, yeah. Although last year ours was backed up because of COVID. And I think they packed out, I think it took 3 months. So I could only imagine it taking even longer.
Oh, yeah. I feel like people coming back, the Australians who came back from the US during COVID, I think they were on 6 to 9 months.
Without your stuff.
Yeah, without the stuff.
And
all that great stuff that you bought in America that you really loved. You've already bought twice of it.
If it even makes it back there, doesn't make it back there most times.
Yeah, when we moved back from Florida, that was when one of the giant hurricanes was coming. Michael was coming off the coast of Florida, and we were like, oh, thank God the boat hadn't left yet. We're like, oh no, the container's still sitting there, and that's why it's being delayed. We don't want it on a ship yet. Like, that's okay. Just keep it on the dock.
Because it wouldn't be a PCS without.
No, that's right. There has to be some loss you have to do with insurance at some point, right?
Yeah. And then, of course, everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Like this week, we just experienced one of the hottest heat waves?
Yeah, probably the hottest.
On record?
Yeah. I think they've started a new amber, red, extreme weather alerts. So it is the first time. So I feel like they like using that because it's the first time.
The first time.
First time that you've ever done it. That's because it's a new system, people. Like, you probably should have implemented a system like this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
First time.
Record-breaking heat, which I think Celsius, it was what?
32. It was only 32 around here, but in some places it got to like 39. Maybe it hit 42 at the worst.
So I think that's like 100, 101, I think, because I think by us it said 99, 100.
So it's pretty hot, but at the same time, a lot of the world copes with that on a regular basis.
Correct. However, they don't really have air conditioning here.
There is no air conditioning here.
There's no air conditioning, so...
And to be fair, we are living in the regional areas.
True.
I'm sure London.
Yeah, I'm sure London might.
Slightly more. I'm not sure that we're staying the same levels as lots of other modern cities.
Because just little, but then again, like things like the roads were melting. The railway, that's a tongue twister. The railway, weren't they having issues with melting metal? But to be fair, like the UK usually doesn't deal with heat to that.
Consistently at that level.
Right. So, and then for it had already been hot several days getting up, and then we just happened to break.
Yeah. I'm Australian, so with all of this heat, I was so worried about fire, because that's what we're worried about when it comes to heat. Because heat, having lived through Black Summer, that was awful. And that was heat plus fire, so then it kills your air. And it hasn't rained here in months.
No.
So it is really brown. But so I guess I was less concerned about the number,
and more about fire.
How everyone's feeling and sweating. And I'm like, are you sure the grass fires?
There were some fires, though, because of the heat. And last week, there was a fire and we lost power for a few hours because of it, because of the heat. But yeah, everything was brown, which is kind of odd for England because England is usually always green. Even in the winter, like there's still green. Granted, it still is green, but like the grass is brown.
The grass is very brown. It's up to Australian levels of brown. We're like, okay, this is what we're used to.
And I didn't realize it till the other day, and I'm like, the grass is literally dead and brown. So that's, I feel like, kind of new for England. Maybe not, but it really hasn't rained. Today is the first day it's actually raining in some time.
Yeah, in several weeks.
Yeah, so
for some reason we might have had to put their wellies and the gumboots away. The kids very happily grabbed their wellies.
They were just with their umbrellas in the wading pool with their wellies, like. And then but that was funny.
I feel like that is the definition of extreme heat in England, where it rains whilst you've got the swimming pool out.
Yeah, exactly. So, I know there was like a few other things I wanted to talk, like interesting things just from us talking and the differences and, military you guys have. So, is it like a partnership, right? Like, if you're a partner with someone,
yes,
not spouse, but boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, they will acknowledge you as a significant other.
Yeah, so our recognizing of defense partners, spouses, happens in a much easier and straightforward manner, where it's just showing that you guys have been living together for 6 months and the proof of it and that kind of thing. So then you get access to the same member benefits. It's exactly the same as a married spouse. No. So we're allowed to travel. Yeah, so we get all the entitlements within Australia, but as soon as we leave Australia, lots of other countries, including the US, don't recognise non-married spouses.
Yeah.
So there's usually a rush, and we did it because we weren't married and weren't in any hurry to get married because our benefits are all very the same. Married to get our visa, so that then I could work in the US. And it's the same here in England.
It's so fascinating. I mean, because then I think you probably have less divorce rates, I would guess.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you don't, there's plenty of, still the same rate of separations, right? There's just less divorces.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit less costly.
Yeah. But I guess because, the U.S. has, the benefit of a spouse would be they would pay for move, but then the healthcare, I think, too, is the joke. And I think I've said this before, but you've had me at TRICARE because, U.S. healthcare is a bit pricey. It's not free. So a lot of the joke is that we marry our spouse members for the health care.
Yeah.
But you guys have.
So we have universal healthcare. So everyone's standard is still the same. You have the option of getting private health insurance. And within the defence system, we get an extra kickback, which is really nice to support the families, of just helps to top up on any excess doctors, bills, specialists, and that.
Oh, nice.
Which is really good. So every year we get an allocation.
Oh, nice.
So again, it doesn't matter if you're married or not married, or if you're
as long as
all good. Everyone, as long as you're recognised, dependent, no judgment.
I like that.
Come and go as your relationship changes. Yeah,
which it does. Yeah,
that's right.
And then also, me being a bit ignorant, I did not realize how many other countries deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq. It wasn't just the U.S. It was everybody. It was a conjoined effort. So your husband was deployed.
Yeah, that's right. We shared our Afghanistan deployment stories together. My husband went when my oldest was 2.5 years. We did the similar thing, I understand, where we'd just moved. We'd lived less than a year in our place in Canberra. So I didn't have a strong enough friends network and had no family there. So we decided to move to my parents' place, moving from Canberra to the Gold Coast, and live with my parents for 6 months while my husband went to Afghanistan. I had lovely support, and I would do it all again. And it's the same thing with the deployment, but it was hard.
It's hard not to be in your own spot, and family's great and super helpful, but at the end of the day, you're still living in. Yeah,
you then have to conform to other people's homely rules, and after having moved out and lived by your own rules. And I find it hard to parent in front of my parents.
Yeah.
I find that a little bit strange because I've made lots of choices not to parent the exact same way as my parents did. I just think that each generation gets an opportunity to improve, and I have made quite the effort to parent slightly differently. And I must say that when my husband came home and told me, we just moved into our house, when he told me that, don't stress out, but I'm going to Afghanistan, the first thought that came into my mind was that I feel like I'm not a defense spouse until I've done a deployment, because I had so many friends in the US whose partners deployed really regularly. They were on multiple deployments. Like they were like, oh yeah, this is like my third one or my fourth one. It's hard, gets a bit easier. Some are better than others. And I just thought I haven't really lived that life until I've gone through that as well.
I agree, because my Blaine doesn't really deploy. In fact, he got that one deployment. It's like a coveted deployment. But other than that, he had never deployed. He TDY'd and he was gone all the time, but he never deployed. And I always felt like I can't say that you really don't feel like you're a legit mil spouse until they've deployed. And then even then, his deployment, we were very lucky, it was only 4 months.
Yeah, I know people who had in the US a year.
And then they'll come home for a bit, and then they go on another. So
yeah.
I always say, like, I know I've had it easy in that sense. But then we've talked about, like, TDYs. Like, does your husband TDY a lot? Or
yes, we don't use the word TDY.
Oh, yeah, so what
we just go on work trips. So we love that TDY. It's such a great description of it, though, because he does it like it's a temporary deployment. They take them away for a period. So acknowledge the hardships that come with that. And to a certain extent, more hardship because it is disruptive to routine, right? Whereas the point of a deployment is you set up your system so that to
get you through the long haul.
Get you through. So you've got your routine and it keeps everybody sane.
Whereas the TDY, it's like this. And
When's Dad coming back?
Right, and then they come back, and then they have to leave again. Which kind of brings me, it's kind of funny, because we've also laughed about this, but our husbands have had some trips here. And I think one thing has been different is they had to share rooms here.
Yeah.
So they'll go on these trips and have to share a small room. And the rooms here, hotel rooms, are much smaller here, with literally twin beds kind of together, with other men in their course who some they don't even know. And
randomly allocated with, other military course members.
Which, I mean, that's a great way to meet people, but we were just like, oh, back where we're from, you usually get your own hotel room. So,
nothing flash, just a single bed and a bathroom, or
right.
even a shared bathroom. Spare the go. But yeah, usually your own space.
So then I'm like, I don't feel so bad. I mean, normally I'm like, oh, I want to go in there. And I was like, yeah, I'll stay here happily in my king size bed. So, yeah. So how often do you guys usually move, would you say?
So because my husband's Air Force, ours is every 3 years, but they also try to do them back to back in location. So his job is supposed to change every 3 years, but they do like to then not move you out of the city for 6 years.
So kind of how we were with the DC.
Yeah.
Like everything, there's so many jobs in one area that
you
can move jobs, but you don't have to move house. Right?
Yeah. And I know that's quite common here in England as well. They try to centre the families in a spot so that the kids can continue in the same schooling and Dad just commutes to different bases.
But they do that, like, even crazy. Like, they're, even though England is a lot smaller, to get places here, it can take a bit longer. But
it really takes a long time for there's closeness of places.
So, but like, I know a lot of people, I think when their kids are younger, from what I've seen, their kids are younger, they move with the husband or their spouse. And once the kids get older, you have the other spouse, the mil spouse, and the kids will settle down. And like the active duty spouse will go to all these places around and then just commute home, usually on weekends. depending on how far.
Yeah, my understanding is that's why traffic is always so terrible on a Friday afternoon and a Monday morning. It's because there's a lot of active military
getting back to
moving back
to their homes.
Yeah.
So tell us of all the places you guys have lived in.
So we went to Adelaide was where we started off. He went off to officer training course in Melbourne. I stayed in Adelaide. We then moved to Newcastle, which was unexpected but great. We then moved to Brisbane. We then flew to Florida and lived 3 years. So our longest house was in Florida, where we spent just under 3 years. We moved back to Canberra for a year. Went to deployment for 6 months. So I lived with my parents for 6 months. And then we just did 3 years back in Canberra. So whilst I say that 3 years and then 6 years potentially in location is the norm, it has not been our norm.
I was going to say, you've been in quite all the,
we have.
And then England now.
And now England for a year. So we tick that off for a quick year and then back to Canberra.
Do you think you'll ever live overseas again?
We are definitely going to sign up for whatever other international experiences we can do.
So same with us. Like, after meeting you guys and we're okay, our goal is to try and get to Australia at some point to be stationed. But what are some other places you guys could possibly go?
New Zealand is looking like a possible option. I think somebody mentioned that Singapore and Malaysia, we have reciprocal base setups in some of those countries. I'm not sure how much of Europe takes Australian people in, because we don't quite have as close a relationship. So the Australian relationship for military is based on the Five Eyes. So the US and the UK is really tight with us, and New Zealand. We could go to Japan, and he would probably be really keen for that.
I know.
There would be a lot of language learning.
Yeah. And would you guys be on a military base or no? If you moved to Japan or any of these?
No. I have no idea.
That's a
how that
good
would
question.
work.
I wonder if the US, because US has
yeah.
I wonder if there's an agreement if you guys could have access to that while you're over.
Yeah,
or
maybe.
If
it would be a true reciprocal arrangement, or if it would be a course arrangement. I don't know. So yeah, we're just up for the opportunities. I love the cultural changes that you don't understand until you live it. When you travel to places and you visit places, you get a taste of what things look like, but you don't feel
you're not fully immersed. I mean, and I agree 100%. I thought, I traveled. I know, no, you really don't know until you've lived in another country and experienced, it all in so many aspects of life that you don't.
Yeah, and so many unexpected ways, right? And I do think that the England time has helped me slow down, and I've really appreciated taking that on board. And maybe we do overreact a bit to instances and fixing things, and maybe we should just keep calm and carry on.
I know, we should just keep calm and carry on. So I will wrap up here, but a few fun things I've learned from them. Australia does have a winter. I always thought Australia was
always hot,
beach all the time. But in fact, you guys, and your winter is opposite to ours, right?
Yes, of course. Yes, in the southern hemisphere, we have the opposite. So we always have a sunshine summer, Christmas, which blows everybody's mind. It's one of the first questions that you have to cover off on with people. And yes, we still cook a turkey, and we still have a big old hot meal. And yes, we still put up an English Christmas tree, a pine Christmas tree, but we make it plastic because they just die in the heat.
Well, and my daughter, I think our daughters were singing Jingle Bells. And was it dashing through this? She said sand. Horace said snow, and they were arguing which one it was. And we're like, oh, well, you're both right.
Yes, I did teach my daughter the Australian versions of the songs, because that's really fun.
Is it a one-horse open sleigh, or is it something else?
Maybe. Oh, I don't remember now. We'll have to get her to sing it. There could be kangaroos involved in the sleigh. I feel like that would be.
Yeah. Well, because that's another thing that I didn't realize. Kangaroos, you said, are almost pests, right?
They are pests. They are, depending on the areas, but there are so many of them that they are a pest. Yes.
Yes. We said car accidents and
a lot. So yeah, where we live in Canberra, there are areas where they have to do big fencing off because you can ruin your day by hitting a kangaroo. You go for a walk and a hike, they're everywhere.
Which is so crazy to me. Like, because we're all like, kangaroos are so cool. Well, and like you can eat kangaroo too.
Absolutely, yeah. They farm them for meat, high in protein. If you like gamey meats, then it's definitely.
I did try it at International Day. It wasn't bad. I wouldn't say I would eat it all the time, but it wasn't bad.
We wanted to do it more in a strong curry flavor than as like a steak. It's a little bit harsh as a steak.
I could see, and they were serving it as plain steak. So
yeah. So you're really smashing into that.
Oh yeah. So I'm trying to think if there's. I don't know. It's just so funny the cultures
and the differences. We definitely found this is a weird one for you that I thought I would share. That I'm not sure I've shared with you before. It was interesting moving to the US, where a lot of the US portrayal in the media of Australians is really the crazy, joking, jovial things. Mm-hmm. And so it's all like, you only ever see the kangaroos are boxing. Meanwhile, down under, they're letting kangaroos do this crazy stuff. Meanwhile, like, throwing out the shrimp on the barbie, and we're all like, guys, no. Like, we're really normal. We don't do any of that crazy stuff. It
is very, I can see,
modern.
Because I think like Outback Steakhouse, I think we talked about, has nothing to do with Australia. Like, that is...
People were talking to me like, we'll get you a bloomin' onion. And I'm like,
what?
What is a bloomin' onion? I do not know what you are talking about.
Yeah, I learned that. But there is an Alice Springs, right, in Australia?
Yes,
They do have an Alice Springs chicken, but I just think they named it. I don't think it's like chicken, bacon, and cheese. So I don't think that's any...
No, it's the ground Outback. There's like nothing there but the roo.
Yeah, and I think also the portrayal of Australia was like, you go there and you're gonna get killed by
everything kills
snakes.
You. Yep. Everyone's so worried about all the
muscly kangaroo. I don't know. But then we had talked and we're like, oh no, there's quite a few things in the States. We have poisonous spiders, we have poisonous snakes, we have moose in some areas, and bears, and alligators. And yeah, I know. So
we got plenty of things as well. That's right.
I know. So it's not all, but that's why
it's not all drop bears in Australia.
That's why I do like England, because even though they don't have screens on windows here. I think we both bonded over that too, because we always have screens on our windows, and we always have AC. But spiders, there's so many spiders here, and there's huge spiders and little spiders, but the only reassurance I have is none of them are poisonous.
Yeah.
None of them will kill you. That's what I told. And there's really very little snakes, and if there are snakes, they won't kill you. They're not venomous. So that's one, I know when I, go on the trails, I'm like, oh, I don't have to worry about a snake popping out.
I'm much happier bushwalking and hiking and having my kids play amongst the timbers and walking along logs.
Because you don't have to worry about it here.
We don't play on logs in Australia. That's a really good reason why Australian kids are just, I have a fear of long grass and log piles.
I wouldn't, in the States, certain, you don't go in long grass, and you don't, you kind of
either
respect nature and boundaries. So
that's right.
Any other fun Australia facts you'd like to share before I wrap up? Or
I think so. That's about it.
Yeah.
I wanted to get the shrimp on the barbie one.
I love the shrimp on the barbie.
It kills us. We like to throw the same things you guys like to throw them on. It's a prawn in Australia. We don't call them shrimp.
I know, that is the one. What's a prawn? But we do like to throw shrimp on. We do throw shrimp. Yeah. I'm getting it now, because you don't say shrimp. It is. Oh my gosh. Anyway.
But we do love to be outside. We do love to barbecue. And we do love to go to the beach.
So do we.
Yeah.
So there's really, but I will say, I think there's something to be said about having a lot of sun where you live, because all the Australians I've met have always been very friendly. And I equate that to the sun,
I agree. I was very surprised when we did one of our first marketplace purchases, and I was saying to this English lady, my husband is going to pop around. He's a happy Australian bloke. And she was like, yeah, all Australians are happy. So I definitely think that maybe it has to do with all of our huge amounts of vitamin D and the UV coming down in the sunshine, because some of the English aren't so happy. And we got the SADs during winter as well. I didn't realize how sad I had become through the winter.
We didn't
until the sunshine.
Yeah, like we're like, oh, we're trekking through. We're even though it's dark by 3 p.m. But yeah, you didn't realize how much it really does affect you until it starts getting sunny.
Until you get a day of sun, and your whole disposition changes, and it's very impressive.
It is. I'm sorry, but anyway, thank you for coming on. This was so much fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and enjoyed learning about a little bit of Australia and military spouse life in Australia.
Thanks for having me. Always lovely to chat.
I may have to have you on again from Australia, which we should say. What is the time difference?
It's always a difficult question, but it's about 9 to 12 hours difference. So just as we're going to bed, they're waking up. Yeah, so it's really awkward in terms of...
Is it basically this time tomorrow minus an hour, but the opposite time of day?
Yes.
I got it!
Yes, that's it. But they're in the future.
Yeah, so they're in the future. So when you go back, you lose a day.
Yes, because I think
you lose 2 days, maybe. Because of the travel.
I don't know. I leave on a Friday and I get there on a Sunday.
Oh my gosh. Oop, I lost an ear. I can't even imagine. Like, well, good luck on that.
Thank you.
You're gonna need I think anyone would drink a lot of alcohol. Have some wine.
So many shows the kids can watch all of the TV, so there's no screen time until you get on an airplane. And then they watch all of this screen.
And then some more, and then
and then you go for a walk around the airplane, like up and down, and then you watch some TV for 6 more hours. So the longest flight time is usually about 12 to 14 hours in the seat. Like in the seat, there you are. Yeah. So if they can sleep for 10 of those hours, you're doing real good.
I can't even. And then not to talk about the jet lag when you get,
Yeah, so it wasn't too bad coming over where you wake up at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. We did that for 2 nights where you wake up at these really odd hours of the day. But I do hear it is a bit worse going home because of the time change. Yeah. So,
Well, good luck.
Hanging out with kids at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Always a fun time.
Yeah. But we'll have all our favourite snacks back again.
Oh, yes. Tim Tams.
Yes.
Fairy bread. Vegemite.
Yeah. Sushi hand rolls.
Sushi! Probably good Mexican food.
No, it's one of the things that we miss from the US that hasn't made it huge.
Oh.
It's getting better. We've got a little bit more...
Better than here.
Yeah, that's what we said. We moved back and we were like, we're going to get a Chipotle franchise because Australia's just missing out.
Yeah, you guys do need Chipotle. And probably Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. Australians are quite atheists though, so we might need to do some ownership changes.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again. This has been fun. Yeah. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.